sales should be feeding to marketing. Hey, these are the things that I'm hearing. Let's generate these really cool ideas of how to go about it. And then marketing should be feeding really hot leads to sales that are coming through their website because they did what sales said. I mean, it should just be this beautiful process. But I think everybody instead kind of gets stuck doing their own thing.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman, and on this show, we will deliver ideas and insights from leaders across the construction industry every single week to help you lead more effectively. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Capital One Trade Credit. With Capital One Trade Credit, you can grow your sales while reducing risk. How, you say? I'll tell you. You can lower the risk from non-payment and fraud while retaining full sales control with recourse options. And I'm not going to go into the recourse options, but I'll tell you what, they're pretty darn serious. And of course, with the platform, you can customize it your way. You can design and tailor this to make it easier for your customers to buy from you. Capital One Trade Credit. Check it out. All right, then. I'm excited to bring to you today my conversation with Miss Beth PopNikolov of Venveo. I know, so many consonant heavy syllables jammed together in one little sentence. Venveo, Beth PopNikolov. Let's break those down one by one so you know what you're getting into and what you are going to get out of this episode. Venveo is the digital marketing agency for the building materials industry. They have built some of the most amazing websites for some brand names that you would instantly recognize. Along with founder Zach Williams, Beth puts out a new episode of their fantastic podcast, which I would strongly recommend to a friend, called Smarter Building Materials Marketing. As for Beth, she attended Radford University. That's right, Radford. Don't get that every day, do you? Mascot for Radford University is the Highlanders. Didn't see that coming. Beth earned her bachelor's degree in English and got her master's degree in English Lit, which sounds terrible to me, unless you need some insights on how to do your communication online a little bit more effectively, which I do, and I use Beth for that. And then all of a sudden, she's a whole host of insights, and that's what we're going to dig into today. In this episode, we talk about the first 90 days of Beth's role as CEO and what are the things that she did and what are some of the advice that she got when she first took over. We talk about storytelling. We talk about leveraging culture as a competitive advantage and making a really fun environment to work, not only in person at their office in Blacksburg, Virginia, but also for the talented people they have working around the world. We talk about all of this and more. I'm excited to share this with you because you are going to find that Beth is not only extremely insightful, but she's also really fun to talk to. So I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate her making time, and I can't wait to share it with you. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Beth PopNikolov, CEO of Venveo. As always, thank you for listening. Miss Beth PopNikolov, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bradley. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate you making time. If I can, we're going to start off with a few basics.
Let's do it.
We talked about a few topics that I know we're both very passionate about. I'm not going to ask you about any of those. I'm going to throw you what might be a curveball, but I think you're going to handle it well. I have to know, and I've been gauging for a long time how long I'd have to know you until it'd be okay to ask you this. Is Pop your maiden name? Did you grow up Beth Pop?
First of all, I'm not nearly that cool. If I was Beth Pop, you would pry that name out of my cold dead hands. That's such a cool name. So no, my maiden name is Wilbur. Not super cool. I know.
Different vibe coming off Beth Wilbur.
You'll notice why I didn't hyphenate. So PopNikolov is my husband's name. It's not uncommon. My husband's Macedonian. It's not uncommon for them to have 2-word last names. Throughout our marriage, I've gone through multiple iterations of how to make our 2-word last name as clear as possible to English speakers. Because I did hyphenate it for a while, and then everybody thought Pop was my maiden name. I've gotten a lot of mail to Mrs. Nikolov, also not my name. So it's all one word, PopNikolov. But I refer to our family as the Pops.
Okay.
When I'm like trying to wrangle my kids, I'm like, all right, Pops, let's go. But
so does this
I
mean,
wish that my maiden name was Pop. That would be very cool.
Does this mean your mother-in-law's maiden name was Pop?
No, so PopNikolov is one word. That's his name. That's the name. It's just 2 words.
You're gonna have to go slow. But I'm not bright. I'm not picking this up. Now I understand.
PopNikolov. So it's 2 words. Pop means priest. Nikolov means victorious. But it's like, I can tell you 100 other families that I know in Macedonia that they have 2-word last names.
Got it.
All right. There's I didn't inherit X from extra. It's all lineage from his dad.
Somewhere out there, someone is running on. I'm going to talk to them, and their last name is Pop, and I'm going to find them, and
that'll be so cool.
Just not today. Okay.
Yeah.
Venveo.
Yep.
Latin. I Googled it for a few minutes, and I'm like, I'm just going to ask you. Where's the name came from?
Venveo has a Latin base, but it is the combination of 2 Latin words, and combined together, it means media that moves.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I asked. All right. Another quick question here. I meet Beth Wilbur, 12-year-old. Where? Virginia, right? You grew up in Virginia?
I grew up in South Florida.
Grew up in South Florida. That's totally not Virginia. I don't research these pods at all. I meet Beth, 12 years old. I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What does she say?
I wanted to be a psychologist that knew sign language so that deaf people didn't have to have interpreters sit in their psychiatric sessions and could have one-on-one conversations.
That is remarkably specific. Where did that come from?
I grew up knowing sign language. I had a lot of deaf community family friends, and it's actually my original major in college, and my foreign language in high school was sign language, and just always felt like I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. It's because it's that thing where you don't actually know what it's like, but just felt like this is a really vulnerable environment where people are having to bring interpreters into a very vulnerable environment, and thinking, how did I limit the amount of people that you had to expose yourself to? So I don't even know if that's a thing. And I'm sure that there's psychologists out there that are like, of course, we know sign language. You didn't invent that. But 12-year-old me thought that I invented it.
Well, I think that's going to tie into a lot of the other things I was going to ask you about, just culture and what I have personally experienced working with you and alongside some other folks that you work with. But that is a very generous thought. 12-year-old me, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be like Bo Jackson, Oh, yeah. No. Okay. So to be clear, getting cold recruited from a crowd for the Mickey Mouse Club was obviously number one. I see. That is South Florida. But then if that didn't pan out, then the really proximity-wise, there was probability. Yes. If that didn't pan out where someone just saw me in a crowd, clearly understood that I was meant to be famous and put me on the Mickey Mouse Club, right underneath of that, it was psychologist that knows sign language. Right beneath that is the super thoughtful and generous thing. But above it, absolutely not. Okay. That's great. So you've been transitioned to CEO role from Zach Williams, going on 9 months here, which that seemed like it went really fast for me. I'm sure it does for you. It was really fast for me too. Yeah. Concur. Tell me about the first 90 days. So essentially Q1 of this year, what was your mindset going in? And were there things you wanted to do differently or speed up or slow down? And the reason I ask is, especially in this environment, we're seeing lots of young leaders kind of take over executive roles. And it's always interesting to kind of think about or ask them about what happens in that first 90 days when you have the chance to make an impact and kind of put a stake in the ground. You have everybody's attention before it just becomes, hey, this is the way we do things. So just curious, walk me through Q1 and what was on your mind or what wasn't on your mind. So
I think I have a different answer than most people because I was told by someone that when there's a CEO transition, the new CEO has 3 objectives: hire someone, fire someone, and change the furniture. And I did none of those because I think that's pretty cheap, right? So the thing about Venveo is it's a really special place. I take our culture really, really seriously. And for a lot of the people internally, I knew that this was going to be a really big impact. My number one objective was to make it clear that the things that we love about Venveo, I will guard with my life. I didn't feel the need to come in guns blazing because there's already so much here that I've been happy to be part of building. But I also wanted to make sure that people didn't think this is a new regime and a new moment and things are going to change. Like, there wasn't a need for that because I believe and love Venveo, which is why I said yes to accepting the position. So my number one goal was to make sure that the people that love Venveo knew that I love Venveo and I was going to take care of it, that I wasn't just going to come and turn the tables over. And like I said, I think that's different than what most CEOs would say in their first 100 days. They'd like come guns blazing with like a 5-point plan. And I didn't do that. I also was excited because what I did want to say is like, hey, the things that we know, because I've been sitting in a little bit of a lower seat, we're now going to get to spend some more time on and push up. And you can trust that I know what those things are because I felt that pain as I've moved up through the organization. So that's been really fun. One of the main things I wanted to make sure was clear though also is this feels like a big shift, right? So for years, we've been saying we are not a startup. We're not even a small company. We're kind of moving into a medium-sized company. Sure. And one of the things that was felt from a culture standpoint was, well, what does this mean for how I currently interact with leadership and with executives and with Zach? Does this mean that I'm going to have to go through Beth's assistant to like have a conversation with Beth? There was a genuine question that was asked. We did like an open forum with our team after we announced. And I was like, there are things that will change because I'm a different human than Zach. So I lead different. I have slightly different vision. Things have to change because they should change. Otherwise, why are we doing it? But there are things that can't change because if they do, it'd be an indication that something's gone awry. And number one is like, I have an open door policy because I believe and I love our people and know that if our people have something to say, it needs to be said.
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important that I think, unfortunately, some leaders who kind of struggle in that transition, and some of it's in between their own ears, but a lot of it is in how they relate to their people, is they're not really explicit about what will change and what won't. And apart from hiring someone, firing someone, and changing the furniture.
That's so upsetting.
I'm thinking back to several examples in the last 6 to 9 months where I'm like, yes, 2 out of 3, all 3 on this one. So yeah, no, but really thinking about at the end of the day, when this happens, people are thinking this has changed. How does that affect me? And especially when it's someone who maybe I was working alongside or right beneath Beth, but she had this title and now she has this title. What does this mean in the context of me and how I need to change or not change? And then how do I feel about that? So I think the more explicit you can be about that, and I think thoughtful about it, taking the time to say, hey, we're going to talk about this and we need to. Otherwise, it could be weird for a while. And it's just additional friction we don't need in the business.
Yep, exactly. Totally agree.
You mentioned culture, and I was watching one of the videos. You got a really good 4-minute video. And I started watching. I'm like, 4 minutes learning about Venveo? I don't think so. And then at 1.0 speed, which I normally click up to like 1.5 to get through it, I watched the whole thing and somebody in there said, quote unquote, everyone here is just so funny and nice. And I was like, you know what? That is exactly what I feel. So the first time I came through Virginia, you and Zach acted like we don't have a care in the world. Whenever you get in, we'll be there. You guys popped over. We had breakfast together in Blacksburg. And I just remember thinking like something doesn't feel right because these people are too nice and they're too fun. Like something's going on. And maybe that's just the Chicago in me. But I heard one of your employees say that, or it might've been one of your customers or maybe both. But I said, that's 100% true. That is my personal experience there. Tell me, I think it's easy to say, and everybody says, yeah, we want this to be fun. And you're like, I've been to your office. It's not fun. People aren't having fun. You must pay reasonably well. How do you intentionally develop that culture and from a leadership way, especially when there is a transition saying, hey, Zach was here, he was the founder, I'm here now. And this is going to continue to be something that I believe it must be a competitive advantage for you.
So we say that we hire for culture first, talent second. We tell people that in our interview process. We even tell people, if you've made it to the interview phase, I'm not here to grill you on your resume. Like, we expect your resume to speak for yourself. If you've got the experience, you've passed. So really right now, I want to figure out, do you believe in our vision? And are you cool? Like, we have loads of different personalities, right? But I really believe, like, this is my life's work. This is how I've chosen to live my life. Some people are doctors and change lives. I've chosen digital marketing. And I spend more time with my coworkers than I spend with my family.
Right.
And that means that we have to really, really like it, or I don't want to do it. And so we just have a really high level. I think honor is one of our core values, which it can sound really cheesy, but one of the things that we do is we have high levels of autonomy. I tell people, like, I'm basically allergic to micromanaging. First of all, it's just not my strength. Like, that's not who I am as a human. And secondly, I don't think that's how you get good work. So we hire really smart people who we trust and believe are going to treat our team well. But it's top down. Like, you see all of us just treat each other with high levels of respect. And it's just inevitable, but it's culture first, talent second. The world is just absolutely packed with digital marketers. There's designers and developers and social media managers dripping from the walls, but they're not all going to treat everybody on their team with respect and champion the brand and believe in others and want to see others succeed. We also don't allow competition. So we win as a team, we lose as a team. It's not your idea, my idea. And if you like stole my idea and then tried to get credit for that, that would be really awkward, because our culture would call it out. If it's just leadership, I think that's when culture doesn't feel authentic. If it's just leadership being like, we honor each other, we have great values, like that's weird. But it's when your team itself has to believe in what you're doing and has to carry it out. I can't force you to not compete and not backstab. But if that's not part of who we are, and you know that we don't do it, and you know that it's not going to be tolerated, you're not going to do it.
So let me ask you, as you think about the cultural value of honor in your role as CEO, is there a specific behavior, something that you try to do consistently, or you can point to this and say, when I do this or I see other people, like, this is a direct reflection of that? Because I always kind of, whether it's our team or our clients or people we partner with, is I'm like, hey, we can talk about culture, behaviors, and how we choose to act on a consistent basis. That is what drives that culture. Does something come to mind where you say, hey, I'll give you an example of either this person or something I do that I really try to drive home in a behavioral way, this core value of honor?
So one thing I would say is a lot of companies, and it's really cool today to talk about failing fast. We really try to make this a very safe environment to fail. And what I mean by that is, when our team falls short, internally, externally, whatever it is, my instinct is, okay, let's work that scenario all the way through, because I can almost guarantee you it comes back to process, or it comes back to XYZ, or it comes back to their onboarding. And if it does, in that case, it's me. Like, I failed them 7 months ago because we didn't have a process in place for this thing. And that means that there's no finger pointing. Like, there is no fruit in that for me at all. I don't care who did what. I don't care what failed. I don't care what gate wasn't checked or shut or whatever. If there was a failure, then let's analyze it and figure out how we fix it and solve it going forward. Because if we want to do really cool things, we're encouraging our team, like, hey, let's be on the cutting edge. Let's be innovative. Can't do what you could get every other agency. Then you have to know, when you risk, if it goes wrong, then I'm not going to be like, what the heck, Bradley?
Right. Yeah. Next time.
That's not really a creative environment. I actually, so I also have this great story that I tell when inevitably you're going to make a mistake, right? Because we're humans. So I have this great story that I tell people when they make mistakes. which is about the very first giant mistake that I made at my first job. I was working at Advanced Auto Parts in their internal communications department. I was supposed to email like a small set of stores to tell them about this test pilot they were doing. I think it was like a new way to, I don't know, clean the battery station or clean the battery card or something. It was like literally 24 people were supposed to be on that email. I did it wrong on the system that we had. Long story short, I emailed the entire company. It's like 54,000 people and when I say entire company, I mean from the part-time worker to the CEO and president, 54,000 people. And then being the smart little genius that I was, I tried to fix it without telling anyone. And I did it again.
Oh my God.
So I had to be in my boss's office, as you would imagine, while she had the conversation with her, I don't know, it was very far up, like boss's boss's boss, about how this happened, and heard my boss say, the buck stops with me. Wow. And it was like a game-changing moment.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I mean, I made like $12 an hour. Like, I am like last hired, first fired. Like, this is terrible. There's not enough wine in the world to make me forget that this has happened. And hearing my boss say, like, the best stops with me, she wasn't happy with me, right? Like, I wasn't off the hook for having made a huge mistake and then not telling anyone and just trying to cover my tracks.
That's the one.
Whoa, what a rookie move. Man, yep. Get an adult. Like, things go wrong, you get an adult.
Raise your hand.
But hearing her say, like, to her and to take the heat for me, I was like, that is a thing that I need to carry. And I really try to carry that forward. Like, things go down wrong. Our team has to have tough conversations with clients. I'm on the call. Like, I'm not sending you into the lion's den. Yeah. And then that means that you are a lot more likely to come up with just crazy harebrained ideas to get our clients really cool results.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think if you would have stopped at emailing 54,000 people once, I would have said, solid. That's a good story. What happened next? No. To know that you didn't tell anyone and double down, try to fix it, which is such a youth move. But yes, I've been there myself. Move, man. Yeah.
I only made that mistake. Well, I guess twice, but I only made that mistake once.
I made that mistake once. Actually, Beth, you made it twice, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
That's what I was counting.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's wonderful. I'm glad I asked. This is great feedback. Let's pivot just a little bit. This is only casually offensive to me, and I mean this in the best way. At the very top of your website, your whole branding for a company that does branding really well, and it's on your LinkedIn profile, says this: I help building materials companies turn their online presence into their best salesperson. You know, Beth, I've got a small problem with that, because you know who I try to make sure their best salespeople are?
I have a feeling.
They're best salespeople. And I want them to use their online presence to make that even better. No, that's why I love talking to you guys so much, because you're coming at the exact same problem we are, to make it easier, to reduce friction, to tell a better story, to better sell the value that so many people in our space struggle with. And you're coming at it from a digital first standpoint, and I'm coming at largely from a people first standpoint. But let's talk about sales and marketing. It is more of the standard than it is the exception to the rule. When I come in and marketing is over here doing something that maybe it's an Instagram post, maybe it's setting up the summer barbecue. And then we have salespeople that are like, I don't have time to talk to marketing. I'm too busy trying to sell. And I offend them immediately when I say, listen, have you ever heard of a gentleman named Dr. Peter Drucker? He's one of the foremost business minds ever. And he said there are two really critical things that you have to do in business. Well, number one is marketing. Number two is innovation. So you're selling, marketing can help kind of pave the way for that. Talk to me about how you kind of work with your clients, or what do you see some of the most common ways that we see sales and marketing compete instead of collaborate to make both of their lives easier?
This is one of my favorite topics, because I came into marketing as an outsider, right? I didn't go to college for marketing. I went to college as an English literature, world's most useless degree, shout out. And so I came in and I have been confused, have yet to resolve that confusion of, why are we upset with each other?
No reason.
It doesn't make sense. No. Right. It doesn't make sense. So, I mean, we just have a completely different approach where if anybody's seen me present, I say, if you want to know what you should be posting about, like, how do you create really good marketing? The person that you need to ask is your salespeople. Now, I do know, but the salespeople they're on the forefront, right? They know what are the pain points that your customers have with your competitors' products? What are the top 5 questions that they ask you during the initial sales process that you are not communicating well on your website? Let's just put those on your website, or let's make 5 social media posts about them, or make a video. Like, that's the type of information that you should be creating to generate really good marketing. And that's how you very easily have that through line between the conversation I had with the guy that showed up at my dealer location and what I found on your website. I mean, it's so simple that it's like, I feel like sometimes I don't want to say it out loud, because then I'm like, why do you even need Venveo? I'm like, this is not right. Like, some of it is really just straightforward. I think sales should be feeding to marketing. Hey, these are the things that I'm hearing. Let's generate these really cool ideas of how to go about it. And then marketing should be feeding really hot leads to sales that are coming through their website because they did what sales said. I mean, it should just be this beautiful process. But I think everybody instead kind of gets stuck doing their own thing.
Right.
And also, one of the jobs that I think we have that you do a great job of is like, let's pull the sales guy up. And you're right. I can't craft a specific social post to meet the needs of the individual that you met in Cleveland, Ohio last week at a baseball game who could potentially buy our product. But here's 4 particular pain points that he has that aren't, and we can't say anything else because we might make him mad. That's where I think the system breaks down, is the granularity. But from a macro standpoint, the relationship should be so symbiotic that you would have to, it would be impossible to tear them apart.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think about, there's a book, and it's back there, but it was called, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or read it. It's called They Ask, We Answer. It's about a guy who started he was a pool installer, I think. Anyway, and he says, I don't know how to do this, but all I know is people are asking consistent questions, and obviously we're not answering it. So he started just putting these on his website, and all of a sudden his business blew up. And I was like, that book is going to tell you in 250 pages or whatever it is, that the consistent questions people ask, if you find ways to, in text, in video, in audio, in person, to answer those ideally before they ask them or as soon as they ask them, you're going to be in a better position. The other thing that we spend a lot of time on is we act like in our industry sometimes that the objections people have, there's a million of them. I'm like, no, there isn't. There's somewhere between 8 and 15. That's it. And it's the 80-20 rule. I'm happy with my current supplier. I don't have time. Your price is too high. Those top 3 probably make 80%. But I said, if you know what these objections are and you collaborate with marketing, they can help you do the workload there. I kind of gave you 2 of the biggest obvious ones, Beth. Are there other things that you'd say, okay, what are the most common questions? Maybe the biggest objections? After we've gone through there, as you say, here's where my mind goes to, if you want to improve collaboration between sales and marketing, I would invest the time thinking about this. Does something else come next after those 2?
So there's a key missing piece or a key flaw that we see in a lot of manufacturing marketing, and really just across the industry, lumber dealers, manufacturers, anybody. And that is, we put ourselves at the center of marketing. So you mentioned, Bradley, what we put on our website is, we believe your online presence should be your best salesperson. What we don't have on our website is, we've been in business for 150 years.
Right.
We've won 17 Webby Awards. We make really great stuff, right? So that's what you find on most building product company websites, is you're talking a lot about yourself, because we've imprinted on our marketing, well, if I want you to buy from me, then I need to convince you that I'm the best. And the best way to convince you that I'm the best is that I've been here the longest, that our products are toughest, biggest, longest, strongest, whatever.
Yep.
And actually, from a sales perspective, that's the worst way to go about it. So our philosophy is, you put the customer in the spotlight. You have a product because it solves a problem. Mm-hmm. What's the problem? Let's talk about that. So more specifically, if you've got multiple products, there's got to be a reason that you have multiple products. Let's talk about that. Why are you here? Because if you're just like everybody else, it's really hard to get out of bed every day. And I've never talked to a manufacturer who's like, yeah, our products are about as good as our competitors. No, you've got like this unsung hero thing that if everybody just knew this one special feature and benefit, that they would choose you. So you just harangue everybody about the special feature and benefit. Why did you create that special feature and benefit? What is the problem that it solves? And let's talk about that. And once you start talking about problems and solutions, it's a totally different conversation. But it's such a mind shift, because we fear when we get people in front of our content, when we finally get their eyes and their attention, there's a fear that's like, but if you don't tell them all of this other stuff, that it's available in 75 colors and we're going to launch something else new, and it also has a 25-year warranty, that they're not going to believe us and that they're not going to buy from us. But if you're hitting the right pain point, then you're going to get the chance to have a second conversation.
I'm going to ask you that as kind of a follow-up. Is there some sort of human nature element here? Because when we're talking about this from a sales perspective and someone says, hey, Beth, what do you do? Or Hartman, nice to meet you. Whether it's your neighbor or whether it's, a contractor, whoever it is, we have to remind people during even a half-day training session, it's 3.5 hours with breaks. I will call it, we talk at the beginning, I bet I mentioned it 8 or 9 times. We have pendants being made from Oxford Pendant in Buffalo that say it on it. Number one rule in sales, it's not about you. And inevitably...
Oh my gosh, do you have a button with that?
We could do, no, but looking to do more on merch.
Do you know that that's Venveo's unofficial slogan?
No.
You say it nicer. I swear to you, I say Venveo's unofficial slogan is nobody cares about you.
Oh, yes. That's a little more direct.
You're nicer than I am.
That's true. But I will say this, and we'll bring this up, and I'll say, all right. And like half the group knows, here's a trick question. He better not start talking about himself. And he's like, well, I went to college at Bowling Green State University. I majored in marketing and sales. And I'm like, dude, number one, you have zero experience. You're an intern. It's not about you. And he's like, damn it.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. So is there some human nature element of it? Or are there other things that maybe are just missing? Because this happens with a lot of really smart, successful people who are not raving egomaniacs. Is there something else to it? Or do you have effective ways to help people break out of that?
So first of all, there's a great book that covers all of this. It's called Story Brand by Donald Miller. I highly recommend it. I didn't invent the idea that you put your customer in the spotlight. I'd love to take credit, but he's getting paid millions of dollars. So let's give credit where credit is due. Okay. So you asked, is there a kind of natural human instinct? I think there's two. One is, I think people are kind of selfish. We revert to the thing that we know the most. And what I know the most is me.
Yep.
And so when I panic, I talk about me. So that means I probably haven't spent enough time actually thinking about you. And if I spent more time thinking about you, I'd be able to have a more educated conversation. I think about me. I think about my competitors. I think about my quotas. I think about the marketing team who hasn't got me the brochure that I asked them to do 6 months ago. But I'm not thinking about you as the customer who has a timeline and bills to pay and a team to pay and all of those things. So I think there's that. I think the second thing though, this is in the book, so that's why I'm telling you, so I don't just completely plagiarize, is it is kind of an evolutionary thing of it. If you make me think, I burn calories. I don't want to have to think.
Yes.
So when you give me features and benefits, you're asking me to sit and make the connection between feature and benefit to result. And what I need is a result. No one has ever gone online and been like, I need windows with 25-year warranty. That's not a thing that people think about. That's a feature and a benefit. I want to reduce energy costs. I want to get rid of drafts. I want to not hear traffic noise. Those are things that I'm looking for if I want to replace my windows. But if you come at me hot with like e-glass and UV rays, and then you give me the information I want in a way I can't digest, 25% more efficient, then what?
Yeah.
Right? So you have to tell me what you're solving and give it to me in a way that I can remember and walk away with.
Both parts of that you articulated so much better than I have in the past. I think you're right, is that when the panic comes, what do you default to? And it's, what have you been spent the most time thinking about that is the knee-jerk reaction? And if it's about you, and I think classic salespeople have been doing it a long time, I don't think that is built-in human nature DNA. I think that's more nurture, which is actually, I spent my entire career and what's made me successful is not thinking about myself. So you punch me in the ribs and yell at me, I start talking about my customer. So I do think that can be learned, but that's, we'll make sure we connect. We link to Donald Miller in the show notes. And, but no, that's really well said. All right, Beth, we got a couple more minutes here. I appreciate your willingness. I had to squeeze in one because at the end of the day, this whole podcast on certain times is really just me lying down on a leather couch asking smart people for help. We're going to consider this a little asking for a friend segment. Asking for a friend. We have struggled to really put a process in place. And despite some of the tools that we're using now to, I think, really create really valuable content with smart people like you, to do something that is a live remote training or experience or webinar, whatever you want to call it. An experience where I log in to see smart people kind of share things that I get a lot of value without ever leaving my office. We struggled to do that in a way that in the moment, I think we've really made it fun and enjoyable, entertaining and insightful. However, we've not done a good job of recording that in a way that somebody else later could watch it and say, this is a good viewing experience. Oh, thanks. The Zoom experience now where I have a 16-part grid. I have to watch this for the next hour. I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I don't leave you a whole lot of time for this. Where should we start? Where should we start thinking about if we do have, whether it's 10, whether it's 100, whether it's 1,000 people who are coming in and they want to see an expert or a couple people talk, to record that in a way that really makes it immediate. I don't say immediate. I'm okay with doing some post program editing, but in a way where we're being thoughtful about what it's going to look like here in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years.
So just like from a tool and technology perspective, because you've got a great setup. You've got the mic, you've got good lighting, you've got a sweet background where I'm not distracted, but I'm still a little bit entertained. So is it just like technology wise?
That's what, yeah.
I don't want to be looking at. So we use Zoom webinars, and then if you log in as the host, I think the term is host, you'd have to look at it. Then it's just going to record the speakers.
Okay. So
that
you are
way,
using Zoom.
700 people can join our webinar, but when we record it, and then we do some post-production because you almost always have to. So, but typically from a webinar, if a mistake happened live, I don't really care about editing it out, right? 700 people saw it. So like, why am I going to edit it for whoever's going to download it later if that feels disingenuous? But we would edit it to like, if there's a break, we're going to edit out the break, or if there's like a blip getting it started or something like that. I do think, you guys do great content, you do great events. I think making sure that it's not reliant on what's happening. So like, is there too much audience interaction that has to happen? And is that going to not feel as genuine? But it's like, as in the moment as you can make it feel. Like the reason that webinars work really well is because you get the energy, you get the jazz. So we try to treat webinars the way that we treat podcasts, where you want a little bit of banter. I want to see you as a human. And then I also think it's important what your presentation looks like. So I am not the presentation guru. That is Zach. I'm really trying to get him to just be on our full-time staff and make presentations for all of us. doesn't really feel like that's what he wants to do as his future career. But I think what your presentation looks like is a really big key. I don't want to just do death by PowerPoint. Right. I need you to keep me in the moment. You've got to be giving me, this, like people remember stories. So be telling stories. Like I have to, even as I'm crafting a whole presentation, I don't want you to walk away from that presentation thinking that I'm really smart. I want you to walk away from that presentation remembering whatever it is that you came to learn. And then I think the other thing is that we try to do is to give, like, what can I put in your hot little hands that isn't just a Zoom video? So is it a template? Is it a workflow? Is it, links to tools? Is it anything like that? So that you've got something tangible that you walked away with and a reason. And it's not like a workbook that you're like, no, in sheet 2, we're going to, if there's like a missing word in the third sentence that we're going to fill out. Like that's lame. I'm not in third grade. Please don't do that.
Yes.
But like we did a social media boot camp and gave everybody here's how you walk through voice and brand. And these are the questions that you can take to your team. And here's the social calendar template that you can take to your team and just start working on and filling out, so that if you don't do anything else from a webinar, at least you can feel like you did something and it was worth your time.
Okay. Well, why don't we wrap up here? Because we were looking, and Eric on my team, who handles all the production stuff and does a great job of kind of guiding the execution of our social media, we were trying to get him to your event there. Tell us, as we kind of wrap up here, maybe what other events you have going, because I think you guys continue to do more training, I think is incredibly needed and valuable. And I think confident if we're saying, hey, we need to do a better job, we can learn from you, I think there's a whole bunch of people out there who can. So maybe as we kind of depart here, Beth, where can people learn more about Venveo? And do you have other events that are coming up on social media, or any other brand building or storytelling, anything else that's on the docket here over the next several months?
Sure. So if you want to learn more about Venveo, head to venveo.com, venveo.com. You are welcome to hit me up on Instagram or LinkedIn. The benefit of being Beth PopNikolov is I am literally the only one. So if you just search on LinkedIn or Instagram, you're going to find me. And if there's anybody else, let me know, because they're an imposter. So we do have an event coming up in October, which I'm really excited about. So every year we partner with Farnsworth Group. They're a research firm that focuses also on building products. And we survey about 2,000 customers from across the building materials channel. So this is commercial, residential, architects, contractors, builders, specialty trades, DIYers, interior designers, engineers. There's probably some other people in there, but that feels like a pretty good list. And we bring both the data. So how are they finding products? What projects are they doing? Where are they researching? How are they making decisions? What roadblocks are they running into? What do they see coming up for the following year as far as projects, needs? Where are they, what do they want from manufacturers that they're not getting, that they are getting, who's doing it well, et cetera. We bring that all into a data report, which sounds really overwhelming and terrible. And then we digest that into something that you would actually want to read, which has like strategies and tactics and examples of companies that are doing it well. And this year we finally get to launch it at a live workshop in Denver, which I'm pumped for. We really have been trying to do this for several years, but our first year that we did this was 2020, which was not great for live events, you might recall. So yeah, pumped for that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, as you know, I'm a big fan of your podcast as well. And I think, again, I've told you this before, is that we will often say, okay, can we be more effective? How can we be more thoughtful? How can we continue to improve? And a lot of the answers is, number one, let's see A, what you guys are doing, but also B, are we acting on what you're telling us to do in your podcasts and in your, the tools and templates and stuff you guys make available? So I'm a fan. You guys have helped us. You've helped me. And in return for that, I have then asked for more of your time. So all I'm doing is taking over here. So I want to thank you. Thanks for making time. This is a lot of fun.
I had a blast, and I would say back to you, Bradley, we're big fans of you. We're big fans of the content that you put out. I mean, you're doing the stuff, you're walking the walk, you're talking the talk. I think anybody who works with you, it should just expect to get incredible returns and have a lot of fun. I love the stuff you guys do. I'm a big fan, so I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, if not having a little bit of fun, then we're probably doing it wrong. So Beth PopNikolov, thank you. All right, friends, how did that go? Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Miss Beth PopNikolov. So as we execute this new branding to the podcast and our website and everything that we're doing, I want to know how we're doing. Hopefully we are continuing to deliver value to you. So please go visit Bradley Hartman, that is 2 N's, bradleyhartmanandco.com. You can check out our new site. Check out our podcast page. We got our videos there. We make it easy to subscribe. We also have a bunch of other goodies there. So check it out. Let us know how we're doing. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I want to hear it, good, bad, or otherwise. Bradley at Bradley Hartman and Co. And if you got value from this episode with Beth, please do 2 things. Number 1, go ahead, email it out, share it with your network. Your network looks to people like you to try to understand where they should put their limited time and attention to improve their leadership capabilities. So share that with them. And if you get a minute, go to the Construction Leadership Podcast and give us a review. Those mean more to us than you know. As always, I want to thank Capital One Trade Credit. If you are interested in growing top-line revenue while decreasing risk by leveraging a state-of-the-art digital platform that makes it easier for your customers to buy from you, check out Capital One Trade Credit. As for me, we're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.